everyone. My name is Kaan. Today, I'll be talking about Sourcify and how we push forward open source and open data in source code verification. Also, maybe I'll stand like this. Okay, the other day, I was looking at the old Ethereum forums. Like, they're not that even old. Like, it's like 3 years old in the Open Zeppelin forums. And I was looking at a contract, and this guy was trying to understand ERC 1155. And I want to see the contract, and I click on the link, and it's not there because the contract is on Girly testnet. And the Girly testnet Etherscan instance is not with us anymore. So I'm wondering, like, where are these contracts? And like that kind of leaves me thinking, okay, this is a testnet. Maybe it is not as important, but what if this happens one day in the mainnet? Then where would be the contracts be? They would be gone. So I would say yes, Ethereum has good verification culture in general, but there are really problems that we need to address, and there are centralization risks or open source risks, and we need to address them properly before something goes wrong. So what are the problems? Maybe look at this way. Yes, the Ethereum community demands contracts to be verified. Like as we said, you wouldn't want to touch a contract that is not verified. And the contracts are open source. Yes, we can say that. But they are open source through closed source verifiers. That's a problem. And the data is also closed. So like, it's not actually a happy situation right now we are in. So what are the problems? Let's break them down. So first of all, I would say one of the biggest ones is open source, and we are at the open source hub. And the biggest verifier, the biggest explorer today itself is not open source. I would maybe understand if the whole explorer is closed source, but verification is also closed source. So we don't even know how the verification happens. It's a complete black box right now, and bugs happen. Like we already had them. And the other thing is the data is closed. And I think this is maybe even more important because, as I said, you can see the contracts one by one, and that's the whole point of verifying the contracts, right? But the data is siloed. You can't get the data set. It's like it's the company's product. They don't want to give it up, but it doesn't really align with Ethereum's values. This data really has to be open source, open and downloadable by everyone. Otherwise, it's owned by one party and centralized. And the real problem here is, and I want to emphasize this, the EVM data is open, and you can build a block explorer yourself. You can do whatever you want, but the contract data is not open. It's proprietary right now. It's off-chain and siloed. So that's why everyone depends on this data, and this dependency should be opened up. And yeah, as I said, it's centralized. When it's gone, it's gone. Like these links are all broken right now. Where are these contracts? At least we have some of them in Sourcify, but not all of them. And the other issue is the tooling is stagnated, and the API, you need an API key. You are limited by number of contracts you can verify daily. And those APIs and tooling is from old times. Like it's been quite a long time since the API has been updated, and we can provide more data and more information. But the thing is, this whole ecosystem and set of problems is not a sexy thing to build on. So you won't have a new shiny product with a token that can you build on, or like no one in the space is really interested in this. So there must be entities that are really interested in this and pushing the ecosystem forward, and that needs to be intentional doing this. So that's why we are working. That's what we are working towards Sourcify and Verifier Alliance to push the ecosystem in a better position. So Sourcify itself is a three people project. It started in the Ethereum Foundation. Now it's spun out into the Argot collective recently. Argot is a recent EF spun out and the largest spin out recently with Solidity, formal verification teams, Sourcify, and Fair Language. And again, we are still a non-profit. We don't generate any revenue, and we run on the grants. And the Verifier Alliance is an alliance, as the name suggests, with BlockScout, RouteScan, Sourcify, and Sam sees you soon if you notice him. He also helped us build this alliance quite a lot. And in the essence, it's a Postgres database, shared database with everyone pushing their contracts to a single place. Because this is the main starting point for us. And what we do is, for example, we get a contract in Sourcify, we verify it, then we also share this with the Verifier Alliance datasets. We also pull data from there, so whenever Bloxcloud verifies something, we also get to verify that as well. Same for the route scan. And yeah, I also have to mention, both for the Sourcify dataset and the Verifier Alliance dataset, we share these daily, and in a modern data format called Parquet, so that everyone can download the dataset and work on it, build their own verifier, or do any data analysis on this dataset. So what are the solutions? What are we working on? So first, open source everything. Not just one thing, everything. So the highlight here is our verification logic. Our verification logic is in this npm package, and it's browser friendly. And a nice showcase of this is how we make use of this reusable verification package in Autoscan Block Explorer. So if you don't know, Autoscan is an Aragon-based block explorer, and it's meant for local users. So you spin up a local node, Aragon node, and then you can really easily spin up an explorer yourself called Autoscan. And what you can do in Autoscan is Autoscan still uses Sourcify and trust Sourcify. But now what you can do is you can fetch the sources from Sourcify, compile them in your browser, and then get the bytecode from the chain in your browser, and then do the verification again in your browser. So everything can happen locally. And then you can say, okay, like local verification really match what we expected from Sourcify. And then all other components of Sourcify is open source. We have the server, we have the repository. Now we recently launched a signature database. If you know OpenChain, 4-byte directory, we took over basically the OpenChain APIs and the domain as well, like the openchain.xyz. And now we are serving the data through OpenChain datasets, Sourcify verified contracts, and other datasets we found. And the nice thing about this is there are a lot of like self-hosted Sourcify instances. Now, this is already a list of 6 instances, and all of these services are using Sourcify for their own needs. Those are the ones that we are aware of. Like there are probably more instances, and that's the whole point. Second, verify everywhere. And this is for the openness of the data. So as Sourcify, what we do is whenever we get a contract, we both share it to the Verifier Alliance dataset, but we also send it to all other verifiers we know. So we send it to RouteScan and Bloxcloud, which are already in the Verifier Alliance. That's okay. But we also automatically send it to Etherscan so that the contract gets verified everywhere. So because in our, like what we think is a contract should not be verified in one place and it should be verified everywhere. The small limitation there is the Etherscan API keys have a 250 per day limitation, regardless of the tier. So even if you are a premium user, you can't verify more than that. But we also built other tooling to have this, make this happen, to verify everywhere. For example, in the Remix plugin, we recently developed with the Remix team, by default, you get to share the contracts everywhere. Like for us, this should be the default everywhere. This should be a non-negotiable, and except Etherscan, none of these require an API key. Why not send it? The problem is, of course, the user experience, so we are working towards improving that with now hardware supporting parallel verification and Foundry TBD. And the last thing is open data. So we want this data to be open and shared. We share it in Parquet format here. We also share the Verifier Alliance data. And right now we have over 10 million contracts verified across multiple chains, around, I think, 180 chains. And we also share this data in other venues, such as BigQuery, to allow other people using Google Cloud to get this data, do whatever they want in, like as a public BigQuery dataset. Also, what you can do is you can use this data in a notebook, like a Jupyter notebook, spin out in a, I think it's called Colab in Google. So you can get the data, do any data analysis on this contract, combine it with multiple data sets. For example, you can get data from RPCs. We can get get MEV data, for example, from Flashbots. That's also on BigQuery. Then you can do whatever you want here. We also have an AI playground on our website here. So what you can do is you can go, for example, and say which contract is the most popular contract by name to this data set. And this will generate you the SQL codes, the SQL query, and then it will say, okay, like the most popular contract on Sourcify dataset is Gnosis Safe Proxy. This is to showcase how easier it is to use this dataset. And finally, like why does this matter? Because we can build many cool things and useful things with this data. We can use this for EVM tooling testing, like we can use this to bulk test contracts. So for example, the Nomic is building a compiler called Slang, and they are using this data set to bulk test all the contracts we have, for example, to see if it actually gives out the expected result. There's a lot of data analysis we can do. We can feed AI models to LLMs to have better solidity generation. One thing I'm really excited about is, for example, building a better decompiler. Decompilers right now does not take advantage of this data. So when you're in a war room and you're trying to figure out what this contract does, we already have this huge data set of mappings between bytecodes and source codes. Let's take this and have a better decompiler that can like give more information to us. Yeah, like this is a call to action to everyone. If you know anyone interested that can make use of this data, please share this with them. And yeah, so that's the main gist of it. You can follow Sourcify and the Verifier Alliance in these links. If you have any questions, I'll be around, and you can also reach out to me on Telegram. And happy to take some questions if you have any.